So it's been another fun-filled, busy week on Sprite Fright, and trying to think about everything that's been going on. It's like it seems like everything is happening. So there was we recorded Elder Sprite this week, so that was great. So we got Eric Phillips, and he did an awesome job. He's this, he's 70 years old. But I wanted to say to him, I wish I had as much energy and it will be as cartoony and lively as you, because man, he was great. So you guys are going to be able to hear his takes soon for Elder Sprite. But he was super professional, super funny, and he delivered on everything. And then I would say that we're pushing through on layout. And we're hoping to have a couple of sequences ready by maybe this time next week to be able to hand off to animation. And then we're just starting to put all of the the real final voices in the layout. I mean, there's a lot going on. And then it's fun to see everything coming out of animation. It's looking super cartoony, and so I couldn't be more excited. And then all of the stuff going on and with the lighting and the kind of pre-renders. So it's very exciting. I couldn't be more happy. So yeah, that's just kind of like the overall update. Obviously, at this point, we don't want to be making any story changes. That would worry me if we were working on a production and we were rewriting stuff right now. That I would be in a freak out mode. So I'm very happy that our story is set, and now it's just executing that and making it come to life. We'll tweak things along the way, but no big story changes. So that's all I can think of right now to share. Hjalti, what do you have to say?
I would say that Eric was so fun, such a lovely gentleman and such a professional. You can tell when you have in the recording booth, reputable actor that also has done voice acting, because he delivered like this, like easy peasy. So amazing.
Great.
For me, it's been, just dabbling a little bit with editing stuff and voice recording stuff, and then putting some voices in a couple of the scenes. But besides that, small little things like this Academy Award winning amazing rig that I did. It's pretty good. Ooh. I don't know, Demeter, our rigger, is on vacation right now. I don't know if it's needed. But within I think an hour of making this thing, Andy immediately let me know that, there's errors in it.
It's so sad. It's just a stick.
How embarrassing. So my rigging skills are amazing. There's a little kind of a sound tune here at the beginning, which is something we were kind of testing out and trying out. For home run, I did kind of a pass on the voice acting, kind of putting the voices in there. I did the same thing for Rextoria, and I actually ended up, this is my weekly folder, I ended up making a lot of versions of that stuff, just to make sure everybody was happy. And then, and these are kind of the shots that I was working on this week for the layout. A lot of fakery going on. These are actually two different shots, but when you play them, they have a feeling of a single shot. Yeah. These guys get killed. She rips this thing. This guy gets impaled. Grabbing the thing, the meat stick, and these guys jumping down. And then this is the thing I was working on when I realized weeklies were almost about to start. So I don't think there's anything else. So thank you very much. That was
I have a question.
No. Okay. Yeah. What's up?
Is Ellie a cricket player or a baseball player?
She's a baseball player. She saw it on the telly.
Yeah, I was going to say, she's probably not that athletic. She's probably not into sports too much. So she's probably wielding that thing like she would wield a pencil to,
She
jump
saw it
into
on
doing
Star
her
Wars.
homework.
Pretending it's a lightsaber.
Yeah,
Turns out
yeah,
she's into
probably-
LARPing.
yeah, exactly,
Well,
exactly.
not a lightsaber. In Britain, they call it a torch stick.
Also the music that we are putting as a temp in the beginning, which we cannot share with everybody because it's copyrighted. But what we're trying to do is we're really trying to amp up the anticipation of, we're going to go on a camping trip. The future is looking so bright. Everything is nature, and then the snail gets squashed. So that's the reason why we just want to amp up the chipperness of the beginning of the short. So you can listen to it later on. Let us know what you think, but that's what we have there temp as a temp before we score it, in the end. So that's all.
This week, I've been helping out together with Simon. I've been helping out Paul, who's not here, unfortunately. But we tried to address every single issue that we had with the caching workflow that we're trying to investigate right now. So what I did was render out a lot of comparison on the render farm with caches and without caches. So because our rigs are very complex and the setups and the modifier stacks are so complex that the caches need to address every single thing, and there's quite some things to hunt down. So this was the first comparison that I made, and you can see that the hair looks different and the snail shell looks different for some reason. And I did that throughout the week. It was kind of a cycle. So each time we had a little meeting, Simon and I and Paul, and then we sat down and looked at the modifier stacks of the characters and see, okay, what has changed here. This is kind of one of those comparisons that I rendered. I'm not sure if you can see the difference pass in the end, but long story short, in the end, we managed to get there pretty close in this shot. So this is the Alembic cached version. This is the direct linking version that we currently use in all the shots. These are the differences. So left is the linked and the right is the cached version. And here you can see the difference pass. So these are the difference in shading or whatever between the two renders. And the shading on the hair, it seems to be different because of some seed issue or so. But for the rest, we managed to get pretty close. So the most important thing is that the deformation on the face is all preserved. And that took quite a few runs to get there. We did the same for the shots of the sprites in the tree, because that's also a tricky one. There were multiple issues with this, namely that you can't use curves, which the slingshot rubber bands, the little pieces, they're curved, so an Alembic doesn't support that. So here you can see in a difference pass that doesn't work out. And all these little things, we went in there, we had meetings, we tried to make sure that they all work. And we are a little bit closer right now. I'd say we are like 99.8% there. So, and the rest of the week, I worked on Victoria, and this was the work I was actually supposed to do. So this fell a little bit short. I have to catch up on that next week. But I completely redid Victoria's grooming from scratch, which was necessary because now the model is there in its final state. And you can't just slap the old thing on top of it and have it working. So you just need to start from scratch. So this was the initial groom, just following what Julien lined out with the sculpt. This was the rendered version of that. Oh. And since then, I added more detail to it, basically. And there we go. So this is just an OpenGL render. I added more loose strands and more gelled together strands of hair in the back and in the front. And hopefully I will continue with that next week. I mean, currently it's on the farm. It doesn't look too bad.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to get at least as good as to what we had before, and if not better. And seeing it all together with the other characters is also going to be very important. That's my week.
Okay, so I was working on this first shot of the home run sequence. And well, there have been a lot of versions because it was hard to get the feel of the cricket swing. It's so weird, this cricket.
Mhm.
So, well, and that's basically it. I mean, well, I hope,
Awesome.
I think this version is pretty accurate now that what we want. I'm not sure, I hope. So
It's looking good. Which version is this? If we went in your weeklies folder.
well, this actually is not on the weeklies. I
Oh,
did
okay.
2A.
All right.
So the last one I don't remember which so
Okay.
I remember. Yeah, you didn't see the second swing.
Yeah. It's
changed-
looking good. I just wasn't sure if this is 7 or
Yeah, I changed the second. That we talked
Okay.
with Hjalti and you. That the second.
yeah, cool.
So yeah, that's basically my week.
So this week, essentially, I've been working on the Sprite Village set a bit more. So essentially, like this was the result from last week. So there were still some to-dos. One of it, which was like adjusting the colors a bit more so everything kind of fits closer together. Making more variations of the foxglove so they can be arranged into these small patches of various growth. Adjusting the moss, the ground texture and shading overall still needs to be adjusted. Right now it looks a bit dry, but at least the idea is that the colors are kind of where we want it to be and that it can be mixed freely with the moss. I added some elements for the new animation of Elder Sprite falling off the tree, but there was some feedback on the moss, so that was just removed. But apart from that, I also thinned out the toadstools a bit more, so that's in the next renders. But then I just kind of went in a bit more shot by shot, so zooming out and seeing like, okay, how does this look from other angles from specific shots, for especially like this establishing shot. I added more moss on the trees, some more elements like fences and flowers. And this right now is essentially the latest result. If I can zoom in. The resolution isn't that high and the butterflies don't actually have any materials. Oops. But I just scattered in some of the animals and just wanted to see how everything looks together. Then apart from that, like this is also just a little comparison of like with the shot panning up. So at the start, I really like how we have this depth of field here. And then I kind of went into the smaller shots, like the ladybugs also still don't have any materials, but this is the exact spot where they're supposed to be. And same with butterfly, just placed like a flower here, and would be nice if like one of the leaves is already there available and you can just stick it on top. But likely what we will do is for all of these shots is we're gonna take what we can from the overall set, but just based on a shot by shot basis, add a new ground that just has more detail and make some adjustments that I needed. I can really see that. And then there's this one, which is kind of funny. Like I also made some one new version, and just having more moss here and it's just kind of hanging over the hole kind of makes it look a bit more ominous. But I'm still, we need to discuss like what flowers we want to have here. This is also the first instance where I tried putting the ink caps on the moss. They probably need more adjustments to have their shape actually work more, especially based on the concept, but that's kind of the idea. And that's essentially it for my week.
Cool. Yeah, I do love, Julien, that you're thinking about the that creepy moss hanging down and the more creepy mushrooms, and I agree. You know, the substituting those purple flowers for something else to keep that moment kind of creepy. That'd be
Yes,
cool.
exactly. And the lighting will do a lot as well. But right
Yeah.
now it's just kind of temp.
It's so
Awesome.
fun to see how you're starting to put all the little animals in the shot there. So I know the butterflies aren't colored yet. And then also, you know, Andy and I were talking about putting just maybe 3 or 4 sprites up on the mushrooms, or maybe, you know, sitting on a mushroom, resting on a mushroom up on a tree, you know, just to see how the colors work against the trees when they're up in them.
Exactly.
But that's looking great.
This week I have some retakes on this shot, so she was like traveling too much, and I just did reduce the distances she was traveling, so I did that. I also did a new version of this shot. It went like through a lot of interaction, but this was what we landed, so that's also done. And I work on this shot also. Oh, again, like it was like some back and forth, but for the moment this is what I have, and like some other retakes and some other problems with the software, and yeah, that's in my week.
First of all, I have done some test posing on Victoria, and the rig is, well, our rigger is currently on vacation, so there's a couple of things that are, as you can see, the teeth are sticking through here. So, but I heard that Hjalti is a good rigger, so maybe he can.
I got you, baby. I got you.
But yeah, just testing some expressions here to see if there's any issues popping up, and as you can see, there are. Those will be fixed next week. But we're definitely starting animating her without these solutions yet. But yeah, that's something that we're working on. Next to that, I did a demo of the rig setup, and I'm not gonna go through it all the way, but it's basically going all over all of the properties that the characters on Sprite Fright have. There's some special properties on especially the face that I wanted to explain, but also for animators that will join that are not very familiar with Blender yet, to show them where everything is and how to get started. So that's a video I did, and then yeah, I'm going to show you an edit with a couple of shots that I've been working on this week. So this is the Rex Storia scene. You probably won't have sound, but yeah. So these are the shots from Pablo. So it's these kind of shots where Victoria is in the web. And then there's another one. I just blocked out the last shot, just the trajectory of these guys, and see how that feels and how we can do that. But yeah, those kind of shots I did. I have to say, like, animating all of these feet, place them on the spider web was quite a job. But yeah. It's all there. So
Cool.
it was my week.
As been said a couple of times now, I've also been involved with hunting down all the issues we have with the caching. There was some stuff going on with material coordinates that we're using that were not preserved, some stuff with just shaders in general where the randomization was hooked up differently. The hair has some seed issues. I just go over this really quickly because it's not super interesting. Some issues with the deformations because of shrink wrap. And loads of other stuff that's boring because now it's working for the most part. And other than that, I did some small things, a bunch of things this week, like transferring some of the bark detail that I made for the slingshot tree onto the generic one. So this was before, this was just transferring it, but it was a little bit too noisy. So I just tweaked it a little bit so we still have these nice and clean shapes, but some additional detail.
other than that, I did a quick test just for experimenting with the cartoony style. So on this shot where the sprites are running towards Victoria, we really just for the first time saw these cartoony eyes really in close up, and so this was the shot just as we got it, and I had the idea of just boosting these teeth maybe also because the eyes have a little bit of emission in their shader, which makes them like really flat and cartoony. So I thought maybe we can also boost those teeth a little bit to pronounce these cartoony faces a little bit more, and that's definitely something we can experiment more. This is just with Cryptomat really quickly in the compositing, and yeah, it's pretty promising to go into this direction.
Great.
Definitely something to experiment with. Then I just quickly added some more sliminess to the snail. So this is the day version where I just increased the specularity a little bit. And at night, also with the color variation, I just added this gross looking actual bump slime that we also have for the chunky snail. And then I worked a little bit on the moss. So we want to make this look a little bit more soft, and I went through like a bunch of different iterations, and yeah, this is the one I ended up with, where it's just a little bit more soft in general. The randomization was a little bit tricky before, and now I fixed that a little bit and try to make the normals a little bit more. I tried to just uniform the look a little bit more to remove some of the detail. It's pretty difficult to really achieve exactly what we're going for with this, just on a technical level. So we might have to go back and forth with it again at some point, but for now it's looking quite good. And other than that, I also looked a little bit into, I can just show it here as well, making the distressed versions of the characters, just going through the different things you want to have. And this is just a more technical test on some of these things. So we wanted these cuts into the clothing of the characters, and the technical question for this was, how do we do this? Because we could just do it with replacing meshes, but that would mean a lot of additional work of creating these meshes and then hooking up to the rig that they actually can be switched out with parameters. And I just wanted to try something completely in the shader. So this is just the exact same mesh with some additional things and vertex colors and UV maps to achieve the cuts with some displacement and transparency. And we'll have to see if we actually do want to go with this method, because it increases the memory usage a little bit, but it's quite nice to be able to just wherever we want to add some cuts into the clothing without having to go into modeling and completely change everything, and especially because it just cuts the whole pipeline for that specific object. Yeah, other than that, I didn't do too much with the distressed versions. I just added some bruises on Rex to see how that looks, but yeah, there's definitely some more work to do with that as well. And I think that's my week. Yes.